South Africa's prop, Babalwa Latsha, has signed a new contract with English Premiership Women's Rugby club, the Harlequins. This time around, she'll get an opportunity to play a full season with this team.
Well, I hope that they are inspired enough to become better human beings for themselves, for their communities, for their families, to be a little bit more brave in pursuing what they are insanely passionate about, in pursuing what truly, truly sets their hearts on fire.
Hey everyone, Jamie here. Welcome to Flame Bearers Unedited, a brand new series bringing to you largely unedited conversations. We heard you loud and clear. You want to hear more stories of more elite women athletes from around the world. So we're going to deliver. In Unedited, we're going to bring you completely unfiltered conversations. We hit start, we have our conversation, we hit end. What we're going to see, though, is slightly different because we're not going to have all the traditional bells and whistles that you're used to in Flame Bearers production. So let's jump in.
My name is Babalwa Latsha. I play rugby and I'm from South Africa.
Amazing. So I know that you are the first pro woman rugby player in Africa. Talk to us about what that's like and what some of those challenges have been like for you. How did you get into this?
Well, I know for me, being the first of anything really is a big, big honor. I was fortunate enough to have gotten the opportunity to break new ground, and somewhat open up a door that maybe nobody thought that it actually existed. And so for me, that's a massive privilege and honor, but I also understand the responsibility that came or comes with that as well, because I do not have the privilege of being average anymore, at least. So, for me, it's important how well I do, in that space, so that hopefully others can follow suit and perhaps be inspired and, to go after their dreams as well. So I'm exceptionally proud, but also humbled, to be referred to as the first ever woman on the whole continent of Africa to have played professional rugby. Where that started, it actually started in earnest in my first year of study at the University of the Western Cape, where I picked up a rugby ball and decided to play fully fledged rugby. Before that, I had briefly caught a whiff of it in Kailija, South Africa, where I'm from, through a coaching clinic run by the South African Rugby Legends. And so I think that is where, the seed was planted, if you like.
Catch us up to speed. So how did you go from that first initial seed being planted to where you are now, living in the UK? Catch us up.
Yeah, when I was in varsity studying towards a law degree, when I first picked up a rugby ball and played with sevens, believe it or not, I felt an intense sense of belonging. And, I felt that I fitted in. I felt empowered. I felt liberated, because I was surrounded by such amazing women as well. And I recognized that, and they recognized that about myself too. And that really caught me within the sport of rugby. And I think that is the main reason that made me decide to, stay in it and continue on that journey despite of the challenges. And fast forward almost a decade later, one is here in my opinion, the best league in the world, the PWR, playing for the Harlequins women as a tight end prop and dominating at that, if I may. But yeah, it's been an incredible journey, and I feel really privileged to have underwent such a journey.
Absolutely so cool. I have so many follow-ups. A couple different things you mentioned. You mentioned challenges along the way. If you're comfortable sharing, what have some of those challenges been and how have you overcome them? I feel like there's a lot of girls listening to this conversation who are currently struggling with their own battles right now. So if you're comfortable sharing some of the things you overcame, that may be helpful for them.
Absolutely. Where do I even begin? The most challenging part for me was constantly on a regular basis and try to break down stereotypes about women's rugby, about what a woman or a female athlete is supposed to look like, or how I'm supposed to behave as a sportswoman. Society makes a concerted effort to box women in, especially female athletes, to box them in, to say, you're supposed to look like this, you're supposed to do that, you're supposed to. But then once I embraced, the freedom that I found within rugby, I then found my voice as well to say that, hey, actually being strong is cool. I can be as muscular as I want. My body can take whatever shape it needs to for the sport. And it's not so much about what my body looks like, but it's about what my body can do for me. And I've learned to love that. And that opened my eyes, to a whole new world and a whole new perspective that, hey, you can be whatever you want. You can be strong, you can be tall, you can be skinny, you literally can be whatever you want. And I think the first step is to accept and love yourself just the way you are. And rugby, in my experience, just allowed me to embrace that. And I was accepted in that sport. In rugby, you will find a place, whatever your body shape and, whatever your appearance.
Thank you for sharing that. It's really, really cool to hear. I know that there's so many moms, fathers who listen to this conversation, little and young girls and boys who are questioning their bodies, how they're thinking, feeling. So I'm sure that your advice is going to go a long way.
I sure do hope so.
Talk to us a little bit about your current team. What are your hopes for rugby in the next couple years?
I am so excited, to be honest with you, about the trajectory that women's rugby is on. It's just in the greater scheme of things. And, I'm so excited and happy to be a part of this revolution and, a part of this wave that is gathering momentum and gathering strength, and just to be smack bang in the middle of it and, to be part of, to compete in the PWR as well. Week in, week out, phenomenal women who are probably the best at what they do. It's a real privilege, and I am enjoying every moment of it. We're on the cusp of a World Cup as well next year. Already reaching in, records in terms of numbers and attendances at stadiums and those types of things. So it really is just so exciting. And, to be me, to be a woman in the women's rugby sports, in the women's rugby space.
If it has, how have things evolved in Africa? You were the first. Is rugby becoming more popular? What is it like back home for you? I know you're in a different place now, but is it increasing in popularity?
In South Africa, women's rugby is growing in leaps and bounds. And we've had our first franchise that has professionalized women's rugby. We do have a domestic league that is highly competitive. The Springbok women, who I also play for, have been an amazing rise and an amazing growth spurt. And I've been fortunate to, be within that system long enough to witness it, to at least be an ambassador of South African women's rugby, if you like. And so from a participation perspective as well, in terms of numbers and growth, it has increased significantly. And it just brings me pure joy to see young girls in primary school and in high school as well, just picking up a rugby ball and playing like it's a normal thing, which it is, and it should be viewed as such. So, we went from blazing a brand new trail by being the first to seeing even more of our players. By ours, I mean more South African players play overseas, play in the PWR. We've got Dinah Lochner, was also my teammate. Both of the Springbok women and the Harlequins. There's Linde Lokwala, who's at Ealing Trailfinders. Oh, there's Carter Jacobs. And one more who just slipped my mind at the moment. So we went from 1 to 5 in a period of probably just under 6 years, which in the greater scheme of things for us is a great achievement, because remember, that opportunity was never there 5 years ago until somebody showed that actually it's there. It can be done, and it has been done. So I am just so happy that the Springbok women are getting ready and gearing up for a fantastic showing at the Rugby World Cup next year.
You mentioned the future, you mentioned increasing viewership, attendance, things like that. What is the future that you hope to see for women's rugby? If you could wave a magic wand and say, in 5 years, in 10 years, this is what I want, what would that world look like?
Oh my gosh. For me, that world would look like packed stadiums. It would look like sold out stadiums. People, young and old, boys and girls, and everything in between, attending, women's rugby games. It would look like a 6-year-old girl or boy switching on the television and bam, women's sport is on. It looks like the complete monetization of women's sport and creating a viable economic hub, if you like, around women's sport, because from a business perspective, there's loads of potential in women's sports across the board. There's an opportunity to, for the lack of a better expression, to make money, to generate revenue. By doing so, improving the lives of the women who are actually playing the sport. And that would be it, where women's sport across the board is fully professional, where women in sport can make a good living, by being professional sportsmen, by being sports people, and not having to have a 9-to-5 on the side because, their chosen sports is just not supporting them financially well enough. Pathways, better and bigger pathways, developmental pathways, skills development within the sporting space and beyond. Because we need to also acknowledge that a sporting career is relatively short, but it opens up so many opportunities from an educational perspective, from different career opportunities. One could be a sports presenter after rugby. They could be business people. They could be, whatever it is that they desire. So I would like to see more support around that, a better preparation for life after the career or the sporting career. So if I were to wave that magic wand, those are the things for now.
Let's work towards that world. Oh my gosh. Holy moly.
But in the same breath, we are slowly, making those changes and heading towards the right direction, at least in my view.
You mentioned the economic viability of sports and how women athletes often have to work secondary jobs. You mentioned the 9-to-5. Is this something that you've had to deal with? If you're open to sharing, how has been your journey, not only as a first, but as a professional athlete, juggling the business side of what it's like?
Well, I've been fortunate enough to, not particularly have to deal with such, because rugby has been my full-time job. I became the first rugby player, so I honestly never truly had to, at least not recently, have to juggle two careers at once. But I'm fully aware and am appreciative how tough that must be. And, I think a prime example of that is Jade Conker, who was the captain of the Harlequins, the PWR, who is a firefighter and a rugby player who goes from night shift into training. That is just insanely amazing that she's able to do that as a person and, show up to games, pull off player of the match performances. I think that's just mind-blowingly amazing in my view.
And I hope one day we don't have to live in a world where people have to do that. If it's a choice to work a second job, great.
Of course.
But that if she wants to be able to focus on one job, that she should be able to do that. Absolutely. I know that you also are deeply involved with a number of different foundations and organizations outside of rugby. The Beast Foundation, Laureus Sport. Tell us about those organizations and how you're specifically involved.
It's a big passion of mine to be able to plow back into my community in the best way that I can and the best way that I know how. And I then came across these amazing organizations who are doing phenomenal work. The Beast Foundation, which was founded by Tendai the Beast Mtawarira upon his retirement. I'm also a very proud ambassador of Laureus, who's a global network of sports people doing phenomenal work across the board, really, to enhance the lives of young people through sport and to be of great impact by educating and creating opportunities for them as well. I also am one of the directors of the Menstruation Foundation, who are specifically tasked with empowering young women across the board by providing sanitary products to them in schools and communities, literally everywhere, because period poverty is a big problem all over the world, and it's a problem that we shouldn't have, and ours is to put an end to it. And because having your period is, in my opinion, one of the most beautiful natural processes that one can experience. So it should never ever be a drawback for a young girl. A young girl should never ever stay out of school because they lack access to sanitary products and things of that like. So ours is to say, hey, we have a solution. We have a solution. We want you to thrive. We want you to be empowered. We want you to love yourself. We want you to embrace the things that your body can do for you. And having a period is not taboo. It's not dirty. It's not something that should be frowned upon, but a normal conversation, just like a nosebleed. It's no different to that, at least as far as I'm concerned. I am just deeply, really passionate about those things. I'm passionate about empowering women, young women, girls and boys. Those things are just really, really close to my heart, which is why you will see me, involved with the Beast Foundation, Laureus, and Menstruation Foundation and things of the likes.
So I am also incredibly passionate about period poverty. I lived in Bangladesh for a while and came across this. This is something that I had never heard about before, growing up in the United States. For those who haven't heard of the concept of period poverty, what is it and what are you doing to combat it with this incredible foundation?
Well, essentially what it is, it's a dire lack, a total disenfranchisement of young women. It's things like lack of sanitary products and lack of access thereto. It goes beyond this just access to just the product in itself, but it's also centered around the stereotypes and the misconceptions, around the whole process. In fact, around the whole menstrual cycle, around the anatomy of a young woman. And, in some cultures, women aren't even allowed to prepare food when they are on their period, which is something that we are trying to educate. We're trying to change the narrative. We're trying to help society to understand, that it is not a bad thing. It has never been. The fact that, sanitary products get taxed, they are incredibly expensive, they should be free as far as we are concerned at the Menstruation Foundation. So
I'm totally with you.
So that is essentially what it is, and it's interwoven within other aspects of society, such as education, in the education sector, the health sector. So we work hand in hand with various sectors of society to truly champion, or not only champion, but also effect real changes and make real impact.
One of the things that I have always really admired about you from afar is, and now I get to actually tell you, is how outspoken you are about the things that are close to your heart and things that matter to you. I think that is incredibly important. I understand that there's probably some backlash from certain people, but I really respect the fact that you are who you are and you stand for what you believe in.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yes. One question that we do like to ask a lot of athletes that we get the chance to work with is, what advice would you give to your younger self? So say your 10-year-old self is sitting next to you. What would you tell her?
You know what? I would actually tell her that it's okay to be different. It's okay to look different, to sound different, to walk different, to be different. It's okay to love yourself a little bit more. Embrace who you are a little bit more. I would tell her that to find her voice, as difficult as that may seem, to find it, and once she has, which she will, to be unapologetically herself and to use that voice for the betterment of herself and others.
Wow. Well said. I feel like that is just a total mic drop. The question that we like to end with is, what one action would you like listeners to take after hearing your story? So this could be, read this book, it changed my life, or, call this person, or reflect on A, B, and C. What is the one thing that you would like our community to do after hearing your story?
Well, I hope that they are inspired enough to become better human beings for themselves, for their communities, for their families, and to be a little bit more brave in pursuing what they are insanely passionate about, in pursuing fearlessly at that, what truly sets their hearts on fire. And in that process, to take someone with them as they rise in that process, is to lift someone as well in whatever way that they are able to, in whatever way that they know best.
Okay, I have a follow-up. I lied. You said to be brave. So this is something that I absolutely love. I only became brave through tragedy when I lost my dad and then almost lost my mom within a very short period of time. Before that, I was largely a little chicken, if I'm going to be honest. So what would you say to people who are maybe not being as brave as they would like to be? So how did you become brave? And then what advice would you give for people who may need that little extra nudge?
Being brave doesn't mean that you are not scared, doesn't mean that you're not vulnerable or don't have the ability to be vulnerable. Bravery comes in various forms, and for some it's having to experience tragedy in order for them to be truly brave. For some it's defying odds. For some it's it's really just refusing to become a statistic. For some, it's being the first. So allow yourself to be brave in whatever feels brave for you. It's a process. It truly isn't, you don't just wake up and decide, hey, I'm going to be brave or courageous.
Right.
But it's a process of taking sort of inventory of how far you've come, but also acknowledging how much more work one needs to do. And I think that's bravery, that's courage. Sometimes, and in fact, it may be a lot of the time, one may not feel brave. It's not even about the bravado or strength, but it's about the little things. It's about understanding how you're feeling in the now. It's about being invested in the moment. It's about perhaps even being vulnerable. It's about asking for help when you feel you need it. Bravery takes, in my opinion, bravery and courage go hand in hand, but they come in various forms and sometimes unexpected.
That's so well said. This is your interview. Is there anything that we did not get to cover that you would like to say or comment on? And if not, that's okay too.
Yeah, I have to emphasize how important it is to, reach out to people, and just be there for people. And just generally, overall, just be a good human being. Just be a good egg, as the English like to put it. Just be a good egg. And allow yourself to be a positive point of reference for your siblings. I have a sister, well, she's my only sibling really, who's 18 years old. And, she's my world really. And I think the biggest privilege is for me to be able to mentor her and to be a bigger sister to her and to help her, understand the world and pursue her dreams and all of that. So, which, brings me back to the point I made earlier about taking someone with you, on your journey and being that, perhaps even a mentor to a young person, to point them in the right direction, to at least, show them what is possible. Because sometimes it's very easy to be lost in what's in front of you, to be lost in your circumstances. And sometimes all it takes is just one person to give you a bit of hope. And then all of a sudden, how you think changes, your whole mindset changes, your demeanor changes, and all of a sudden your dreams become bigger. So, yeah, that's just what I wanted to say.
Thanks for tuning in to Flame Bearers Unedited. If you like what you're hearing, please leave us a positive review on your favorite podcasting platform or YouTube. If you want to see more behind the scenes coverage, follow us on social media, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, X, whatever platform you're on, we're there too. Thanks, and we'll catch you on our next episode.